What up, and greetings! I'm back with another Rastakhan's Rumbler review. It's releasing tomorrow, so let's get on with it. So yeah, the next class on our list is Warrior. The new Warrior card synergize further with the Rush mechanic, so their Spirit card and the Legendary that goes with it are bringing some new interesting ways of how to boost this mechanic in Standard. And there's also a Revival of Dragons. And if you were around for the pre-Blackrock Mountains rotating out of Standard days, you can remember this deck kind of competing with Pirate Warrior at the time, even though Pirate Warrior was pushing face a bit more, whereas the Dragon was kind of trying to establish the board, kind of mid-rangey, and then push for the Fountain push later on in the game. Without further ado, let's get into the cards. First one is Heavy Metal. It's a 6 mana spell. Summon a random minion that costs equal to your armor up to 10. Same mana as Gather Your Party, which recruits a minion instead, and I would say equally as bad, maybe even worse, because it's the same effect that you have on Geosculptor Yip, but you don't get the 4/8 body with it. That might actually persist until the turn later, when you still might have some armor left, and you only pay 2 less mana for it. If you always played on 10 armor, which I suppose that most of the time will be the case, it will summon an 8/8 most of the times, because most of the 10 mana ones are giants, and a plain 8/8 is usually not enough on turn 6 when you're trying to be quite reactive to what's happening on the board as a warrior, rather than just be playing naked big guys, despite them having a lot of stats. So I'm not expecting this to see any play. Next one is a weapon. First weapon for warrior that is being introduced. It's called Overlord's Whip. 3 mana 2/4. After you play a minion, deal 1 damage to it. So from the 2 weapons that are introduced, I would say this one is actually considerably worse. It does the job of an animated berserker. Could be a bit more consistent by being a weapon and usually sticking around for longer than 1 free wood. There's a couple of minions that you would want to do 1 damage to. Obviously, there's Acolyte of Pain, Security Rover, Eternium Rover, Froving Berserker, Gromash, and among some other neutral ones. This is going to come into effect when Bloodraiser rotates out, because Bloodraiser can trigger it with much control, and you've got the board clear effect on top of it, which means that you can also, with the Whirlwind, do more effective traits, whereas this one only does 1 damage to your minion. And apart from those couple of minions that I've just covered, you don't necessarily want to do damage to your minions all the time. So I think while Bloodraiser is still in Standard, this won't see play. When it leaves, we shall see, but I don't think it's strong enough to see play even after. Next is a second weapon called Schulthrace. 6 mana 4/4, overkill, you might attack again. So this is quite close to Fool's Bane, but it's a bit better in my opinion, as it can go face, at least 1 hit, you know, the last hit after it killed the previous minion. So you can go minion, face, and then minion, face the next turn. Despite the fact that it's 1 more mana than the Fool's Bane and has the overkill prerequisite, I think that it's actually decent. Might see some play, especially once Odd Warrior maybe falls out of favor a little bit, because obviously you can't put this to Odd Warrior. I think the question is whether it does a better job at removing minions, you know, and kind of remaining on the board than Super Collider does, or even Gore Howl. And if you're able to afford taking that much damage, because yeah, you can like remove or fall wolves from Spellstone, but you also took 12 damage, and fair enough, you would have been taking that 12 damage the next turn anyway if the wolf survived. But you've just spent 6 mana and your entire turn 6 on removing those 4 wolves. And taking 12 damage, I don't know. I mean, it has some potential, but it might just be a whiff card. Next one is a 1 mana spell called Devastate. Deal 4 damage to a damage minion. So this is kind of like original Execute, although it doesn't kill everything. Execute would, of course, but usually will be enough to finish a minion after a Whirlwind or a trade. Therefore, it fits nicely in Odd Warrior. It depends what you want to cut for this though, because kind of your hero power in a shield slam does 4 damage. This does 4 damage, right? You always have control over when you're going to power up, even though it's 3 mana in total. This is only 1 mana actually. And you already also play Omega Assembly on 1 mana, so you probably won't be cutting that to put a Devastate in your deck instead of Omega Assembly or the Shield Slam, because objectively or subjectively it's better Shield Slam. So maybe after the next rotation, but I don't think it's groundbreaking, but it's also not that bad. Next one is also a spell called Dragon Roar. It's a 2 mana. Add 2 random dragons to your hand. So I don't think this card is as bad as people, you know, give it credit for. Yeah, the dragons that you get are random, but you get them outside of the deck. On average, you get decent value. You only play this on a turn where you don't have access to any other, better dragons that you can play from your hand, or if you need a dragon activator in your hand. So this can also help you with it. Instead of sticking another dragon, you can stick 2 dragons in your deck by just playing this one spell. And it all depends if Dragon Warrior is good at all. I think that if it comes around and it's not like an all Dragon Warrior, that it might include at least a single copy of this card. So we get the first big dragon called Emberscale Drake. 5 mana, 5/5. If you're holding a dragon, gain 5 armor. So this card is obviously really good. And they made it so that Dragon Warrior can be a bit viable and able to survive for longer in the game. It's a mana cheaper than Shield Maiden was. And you can actually play this and a Shield Slam for 6 mana and do 5 damage the same turn. Which historically has always been a really, really good swing play. So be it from Shield Maiden and Shield Slam, or you played Angel Shield Bearer with Cthulhu and Shield Slam. And this alongside Dragonmaw Scorcher are like the cheapest and probably the most playable dragons coming with this expansion, in order to kind of keep yourself on the board for later when you can summon the really big guys. And only time will really tell if that's enough to make this archetype work again. Next card is called Smolderhorn Lancer. It's a 3 mana 3/2. If you're holding a dragon, destroy a damaged enemy minion. So again, this is a great card, especially in Odd Dragon Warrior, if it proves to be better than the mech variation and it gives access to, execute type of effects by playing this card. Because you can't play execute in Odd Warrior, because now it's 2 mana, used to be 1 mana, then you could. And you get essentially execute for 2 mana, and then for 1 extra mana you get a 3/2 on top, which is very nice, very nice. So I think this is a very solid card, and again, it depends on how strong dragons turn out to be in the months to come. But if they do turn out to be any good, this is definitely going to be a 2-of. Okay, so the legendary for dragons is War Master Vaughn. 4 mana, 4/3, Battle Cry. Copy all dragons in your hand. Again, this is pretty good. Unfortunately, would be excluded from the odd version of the deck, which I think is more likely to happen, if it does happen. If you play a non-odd version, and you include odd and even cards, you can, however, include this and Dragon Roar, and potentially make 4 to 5 extra dragons. You can copy Emberscale Drakes and get 20 armor before you win the board over, and you can put down some big boys like Primordial Drake, Ysera, something that actually generates you a lot of value, and start pushing back on your opponent. So this card is quite promising. You're not really paying that much in stats to make that effect happen. And okay, I think that's quite enough of dragons, so let's move into the rush synergies. So the spirit for warrior is Spirit of the Rhino. Your rush minions are immune the turn they're summoned. So the stuff is for 1 turn, obviously. And the only benefit of this card is that it's 1 mana. So you can play it on the same turn as you can play Boomship. And then obviously all the cards summoned from Boomship have rush and are immune. So it's like 40% or something of the new cards in the expansions have rush. So that might be something, some interactions that people are not really thinking about yet from the new cards, because they haven't managed to play with them yet. Some of them might be really, really good or better than others. Overall, I don't think it's got so much of an impact on the game overall. If you play this, you can play this on a Boomship, and then, you trade with all your enemy minions, and then you get Twisting Nethered. And then, you play 2 cards and you destroyed 3 minions from your deck, and you only really traded for the board. Rush is a cool mechanic, but because it's reactive, and that's why it's kind of fairer than charging, but I think they're kind of trying to push it a bit too much with the expansion that's coming out now, but it might work, especially alongside the new legendary. That's the last card on the list, and that's Akali the Rhino. 8 mana 5/5 beast, rush, and overkill. Draw a rush minion from your deck, give it +5/+5. Again, this kind of depends on what you're gonna pull, because you're gonna have 2 mana remaining, so you can on the same turn only can play like a Vicious Scalehide or a Skaterbot. And with Vicious Scalehide, it's actually really, really decent because it gives you quite a bit of health back. It works very well with Darius, obviously, who likes more stats. Ziliax, again, gives you tons and tons of health back. Then you can play Ondasta. So you can play Ondasta, kill something, then you can summon Akali from your hand. And then you can draw another minion with Akali from your deck. And that's really, really good. But if that doesn't happen together, you're pretty screwed. Overall, you're going to have to put quite a lot of rush minions into your deck in order for this not to whiff and not just pull nothing. And you're paying quite a lot of mana to make this effect happen, so you better pull something good. So I think the best is actually if it pulls something like Zilex or Scale Height to keep you longer in the game, and maybe, you know, put a taunt there as well to hide this behind, and maybe pull another minion the turn after. So if you play more rush minions in your deck, what do you cut? So you cut dragons, or you do cut mechs, or do you cut removal, or you just play full on rush deck with the spirit and put board control every turn? Let's see if it works. What's your opinion, guys? Will rush mechanics work, or will dragons work in the next expansions? Or dragons, even dragons, no dragons? Let me know in the comment section below. It's been all from me today, guys. I'm working on the next few reviews. Hopefully I can put them on before the next expansion hits. Good night. Bye and take care.